So if you've not met her before, this is Molly, and she sometimes makes a guest appearance in my videos, and she's decided to make an appearance today. I need to film the intro though first. Yes, I do. So I asked you to submit your burning questions, crochet related or otherwise, and boy did you deliver. I had over 50 questions submitted to me for this video, and honestly I felt a little bit overwhelmed by the number and variety of questions that I got. So I've sat on these questions for about 3 months, so I do apologise if you've been waiting for this video, but it felt too overwhelming to sit down and film a video answering 50 questions. So what I've done instead is I've grouped the questions together, and we're going to have a few chatty, chilled videos where I'm going to sit, I'm going to crochet on a project and answer those questions that you've asked me. The project that I'm going to be working on in this video is this blanket here. So this is a second sample of a crocheted quilt pattern that I am releasing on the 29th of November with the crochet along starting on the 1st of December. If you'd like to learn more about the crochet along and the pattern release, it's actually a collaboration with a yarn dyer, Skein and the Stitch, and we did a video together about this collaboration earlier in the year. I'll link it down below. I'll also link my website that has everything you need to know about the pattern release, the crochet along, and all the associated things like what yarn you need, what hook you need, etc. So this blanket that I'm working on is actually not the main blanket for the pattern. So the main blanket for the pattern is using an advent from Skein and the Stitch that's Anne of Green Gables themed, but because that's her 2025 advent, it's actually a mystery until the end of December. So I'm using a different dyers advent from last year so that you guys can see the blanket in colour, because so far I've only been able to share black and white photos of the blanket. So yeah, so what I'm going to be doing in this video is, yesterday I finished seaming all 16 of my quilt blocks together, and in this video what I'm going to do is I'm just going to be working on the border as I answer your questions. Where have I put my crochet hook? There it is. And yarn, right, we're good to go. I'm just going to start this off and then I will get to the first question. Right, so I've got all the questions on my phone. So the first question it was actually quite a lot of people. It was the most common question that I got asked, but people asked it like in different ways and with different words. But essentially it was, how did I learn crochet? How old was I? Who taught me? Kind of what I think is kind of like my crochet origin story, like how I got into crochet. So we'll start with that. Okay, so I learned to crochet when I was 19. So I had just gone into my second year at university and I was having a really tough time. I was actually struggling with severe depression that was treatment resistant and anxiety. Thankfully they don't affect me too much anymore, but I really struggled with them for quite a few years. And I was taking some time out of university and I'd moved back in with my family for the rest of the semester, kind of whilst I was trying out different medications and trying therapy to try and kind of like help my mental health. And I just felt like I needed something in that time in my life. I needed to do something productive, something with my hands, and like just something I could focus on while everybody else was at school and at work, and I was like alone by myself with my thoughts. And I'd learned to knit as a child. My babysitter taught me to knit, I think when I was like maybe like 6, 7, 8, I don't know, I don't remember exactly when. And so she taught me to knit, so I could knit in rows and just knit stitch. And I knitted a scarf when I was a kid for one of my siblings, and then I hadn't really knitted since then. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to knit my little brother, who had just started school, a scarf. So I went down to like B&M. If you're in the UK, you know what B&M is like a cheap shop, like where you can get like cheap things. It's not like a pound shop or anything, but it's like, yeah, it's just like a budget shop. And I bought some cheapy balls of wool and I knitted him a little scarf that he lost on like his second day at school or something like that. But it kind of like awoke something in me. I don't know what else to describe it as. It's almost like, oh yeah, I love this, this is what I want to do. So I went online, I discovered Ravelry, and I think like Pinterest maybe, or maybe it was Google Images, but somehow I saw granny square blankets and it was love at first sight. I absolutely fell head over heels in love with granny squares. And it was this specific image. I don't know if I can find it now because, you know, we're talking 2010 here. I've been crocheting for 15 years. So this is when I was 19 and I'm now 34. So the internet was a very different place then. And yeah, so I found this picture of a granny square blanket and you're like, do you know what? I'm going to learn how to do that. So what I did is I found a YouTube video, and YouTube was very different in 2010 than it is now. Now, like, I'm able to make YouTube a part of my like income. It provides me with a little bit of income from ad revenue. So, but back then I don't think they did that. It was just people posting videos for fun. And I found this video and I haven't been able to find it since. I wish I could, because it would be so lovely to watch it again. But it was from a lady, it was an American lady. She was a bit older and she had like, I'm not good with American accents, but she had like what I would call like a Southern American accent, but I don't know like which part of the South. And yeah, so I learned crochet from that video, and I think it was like, I remember the bit of crochet and her face quite vividly. And the bit of crochet did, it was this horrible green wool that I think like my mum had a bit of scrap of or something. I'd got this scrap of like horrible green wool. It was like, it's like the shade of green that I don't like. It's like a really browny, olivey green. I don't know how else to describe it apart from that. I think it looks a little bit like baby poo green. But yeah, so it was that colour, and I did like a chain, and then I did rows of single crochet, half double crochet and double crochet from this video. And it should have been a little square and it was a little triangle, and it was so messy, but I was so proud of myself that I had learned crochet from this YouTube video. So then I think, I don't know, it was around about the time I discovered Ravelry, which, if you didn't know, is a website where you can like post about your projects and keep track of your projects, but also like you can buy patterns on there, you can look at projects people have made with like a specific yarn. So I found Ravelry. So this is 2010, so it was a different place than it is now. The forums on Ravelry used to be really active and they're not so much anymore, because I feel like everyone's moved to social media. But yeah, anyways, and then I found blogs, and back then blogs were just blowing it up in the crochet space. There were some really amazing crochet blogs, and I was hooked to these crochet blogs. I'm telling you now, like, I can't remember how I did it. I'm sure I used to get some kind of like email notifications when people made blog posts on the blogs that I followed. It was a great time to be part of the online crochet community. But basically I came across a blog, and it was actually the Attic 24 blog, and she's now quite a famous like crochet designer. But when I started following her, it was around about the time she started doing like crochet tutorials. I think specifically she was working on her now famous like granny stripe colourful blanket that kind of like blew up Stylecraft special double knit yarns. So I started following her, but I didn't want, everyone was making this granny stripes blanket, right? And I didn't really like it very much. I know that's like controversial to say, but it just wasn't my thing. I really wanted to do granny squares. So I bought some yarn off the internet. I couldn't tell you what website it was, and I just picked a few colours randomly of like Stylecraft special double knit and the cream colour of Stylecraft special double knit, and then I made this granny square blanket. And I will tell you now, I crocheted that granny square blanket in like 2 weeks. I woke up, I had a shower, I got dressed, I sat in the living room and I crocheted on that until I went to bed. Like literally, I don't know how. I suppose it's because I was 19, but I wouldn't be able to do that now with my like joint pain. I made that granny square blanket. I'll maybe put a photo up on the screen, and like I made it. I was really proud of myself that I made it, but it didn't look like the photo on that I'd found online. I'll see if I can find that photo actually, where it used different colours and it was very much white, not cream. So I was a little bit, I didn't massively like the blanket, but I was so proud of myself that I'd made this crochet blanket. And I immediately started like planning all my future crochet projects. So that's kind of like how I fell in love with crochet. I think when I learned to crochet, after like I'd learned to crochet that day when I sat and watched this YouTube video, I'm pretty sure I remember saying at some point that I had crocheted every single day after that day for the next 2 years. Like I was addicted to crochet, and it worked. It really helped me work through my mental health. Like I was in a pretty dark place. It was really hard, one of the hardest times in my life. And I would say crochet probably saved my life at points where I had something to do. I wasn't just sat with my own thoughts and, you know, pretty dark thoughts, and I had that crochet to work on. And yeah, I'm so glad I found crochet at that point in my life, and I'm so glad that I am still crocheting granny square blankets, albeit very different. We're pretty much, in November it will be 15 years since I learnt to crochet. That's pretty awesome that I've been crocheting almost consistently for 15 years. I don't crochet every day anymore. I actually had a break from crochet for quite a while I was training to be a midwife, but yeah, crochet is still a really, really important part of my life. So yeah, that's my crochet origin story. And then let's have a look at the next question. Really excited about your Advent collaboration with Skein and the Stitch. Me too. Have you anything else crochet in the pipeline with any of the other indie dyers? Yes, but nothing confirmed just yet, like nothing I can reveal details about. So I was actually supposed to collaborate with 2 different designers. Oh, I'm supposed to be crocheting while I'm answering these questions, aren't I? Let me just... So yes, I was actually supposed to be collaborating with 2 different dyers for their advents this year and releasing 2 patterns at about the same time. They had very different themes, and I was going to do different projects for the 2 of them. One of them was Skein and the Stitch, but I found out I was having surgery in April. I was having surgery for my severe endometriosis, and I'd been waiting for the surgery for like more than 3 years. So I didn't want to have too much on my plate because I didn't know how my recovery went. My recovery was really straightforward, actually. I potentially could have done the second dyer's advent as well. I won't say which one, but we've provisionally said that I will design with her 2026 advent for a crochet along. I don't know whether it'll be a blanket. She's not quite sure on what theme she's doing just yet. I should actually message her and ask if she has any ideas, but I know that right now it's like really, really busy for a lot of the dyers because they're trying to get their advents out before it's the advent period. So maybe I'll wait a few weeks and then give her a message to double check we're still on for next year. Me and Jess have also got another collaboration because we enjoyed it so much, because although obviously I went into the nitty-gritty with this and her colours were all her own, I had no input in the colours, and she didn't get into the nitty-gritty with this, but it was actually her pushing me to do the patchwork blanket, and I asked for her feedback a lot. I was like, oh, what do you think if I did this, or what do you think if I did that? So it was really nice having someone to go back and forth on the design with, and we both really enjoyed it and we both really want to do it again. So we're currently in discussion about me designing a project with some of her Yorkshire collection colours, because we both live in Yorkshire and I love living in Yorkshire, and I have a blanket designed, this blanket in fact, with 12 granny squares inspired by Yorkshire. So I really want to design something with her Yorkshire collection. So yeah, we're in talks about that. The other thing as well is I'm open to collaborating with indie dyers, but the issue with hand-dyed yarn is that whenever I post anything that I'm working on, I will easily get 10, 15, sometimes more DMs and comments asking me about the yarn. For example, this blanket. This yarn you can't get anymore. It was a 2024 advent and the dyers actually stopped dyeing, so there's no chance they're going to be able to dye it again. And so that's a bit of a problem for me as a crochet designer, because people often want that exact yarn that you're using. And with hand-dyed yarn, they're often done in one-off batches for a collection release, and then they're retired almost immediately. And if you didn't get them in that 2-week pre-order, tough luck, they're out of stock now. And I love, love, love hand-dyed yarn so much. It makes crocheting with it so much more fun because of the variation in colour. So I do want to do more collaborations with hand dyers, but I don't want it to be every project. I want to try and use yarns from different price ranges, different colours, different fibres, things like that. So, and try and have more than one option for different budgets and things. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure on how many of those will be confirmed, but as soon as I can confirm anything, I will let you know. And I will let you know as soon as I've got it confirmed that I am collaborating with someone for their advent next year as well, because I love yarn advents. So yeah. Oh, this is a really good question. If you could only do one specific crochet stitch for the rest of your life, what would it be? Also, what's your favourite colour and or flower? Okay, first question, that is like such a good question, and I have an immediate answer to this. I don't even need to think about it. Granny stitch, 100% granny stitch. It's the fastest stitch that I can crochet, 100%. Like, I can go so fast with granny stitch, and it's quite like flexible. So you could make a granny square in granny stitch, but you could also do a shawl, a sweater, a blanket in granny stripes, or corner to corner granny stitch, or granny stitch ripple. Like, it's so quick, it's so easy for beginners. Double crochet is like the quickest stitch I can crochet, and like, yeah, I just granny stitch 110%, not even any doubts. So what were the other questions? Because you asked me about some other stuff as well, didn't you? What's your favourite colour and or flower? Colour's easy as well. I'm a millennial, I'm 34, and millennial pink, 100%. That pink that was blooming everywhere like 10 years ago, that's my favourite colour, millennial pink. Flower is a little bit more nuanced. When I was a kid, my favourite flowers were bluebells and sweet peas. And then I quite like lupins and sunflowers as well, but now I'd probably say daisy. I think I look at daisies and they make me happy. I've got like more than one daisy crochet pattern. I'm supposed to be crocheting while I talk about this. I keep forgetting to crochet while I'm answering the question. So yeah, I'd say daisy, but I also really enjoy, I love sunflowers as well. I haven't grown sunflowers for like years and years, so next year I might try and grow some sunflowers in the garden because I do love them. I also really like pointy flowers. Like, I don't know what they're called, but like the long pointy ones that have like points of flowers on the top. So like foxgloves, delphiniums, lupins, like, yeah, those sort of pointy, spiky flowers, I guess. I should maybe get some of those for the garden. Anyways, right, next question. How long does it take you to make a crochet blanket? I'd love a video on every blanket you've ever made. Also miss the podcast. Okay, I'm going to address like all three of those points separately. So how long does it take you to make a crochet blanket? Honestly, it depends. I think when I estimated the Yorkshire blanket one, it was about 100 hours. But this is like, I think I used a 3mm hook for this, or a 2.75mm hook. So it's really like small stitches. Chunky blankets I can make in like, I think my sunflower blanket was like 8 days, something like that, because that was like super chunky yarn, and like I think it was something silly like a 10mm hook or something. So it really does depend on like the size of the yarn and also what else I've got going on. So if I haven't got a lot going on and it's a really quick and easy blanket, say my giant granny square blanket, that took 2 weeks exactly. I did a ripple blanket that took me 11 days. But those are like the exceptions to the rule. Generally, a blanket takes me a few months. I have got 2, maybe more than that, under the bed that have not been worked on for more than 10 years, that are just like abandoned works in progress that I either need to frog, I need to finish, or I need to give to someone who will finish it. Because it just seems like a waste for them to be just like half made under the bed. So yeah, there's some there that are like over 10 years. Yeah, it really depends on what else is going on in my life as well, because like at the minute with my health problems, I have a lot of time home alone. So I tend to often, there are days, recently I had a fibromyalgia flare where I spent like a week in bed, and I basically crocheted most of the granny squares for this in that time, because my fibromyalgia pain is mostly in my legs, not in my like hands and stuff. So yeah, it really, really does depend on the project and my free time. So yeah, and then there was some other stuff as well you asked, wasn't there? Oh, I'd love a video on every blanket you've ever made. Well, I've already made that video. It's nearly 2 years old. And I think it was like 9 blankets I've crocheted. It's titled something like that. I'll link it down in the description for you if you want to go and watch it. It is a little bit out of date. I think I've made like 6 or 7 blankets in the last 2 years. So I should probably do an updated video. That could be fun. I've been trying to think of a special video because so Fridays is my usual YouTube upload day. And Boxing Day is Friday this year, and I've been thinking of trying to think of like a special video I can upload on Boxing Day. So maybe, would you like that? Like, would that like interest you all if I did a every blanket I've ever crocheted video again, like basically like doing an update of the one that I've done previously. Yeah, let me know in the comments if that sounds like fun to you, because that's a good video idea. I might go and add that to my video idea list. Thank you so much. They also said, also miss the podcast. Yeah. Shall we take a minute to talk about the podcast? Because I feel like it's been a cloud that's been hanging over me since like January, and we're now in October. So my last podcast episode was in November 2024. So in December, I decided not to do a podcast episode because I was trying to do weekly vlogs that didn't end up happening. But yeah, because I was trying to do weekly vlogs for Vlogmas, that's like a thing people do. And so I missed that. And then in January, so what happened is I knitted a Christmas cardigan that was colour work, and it was in quite a rustic yarn, and it flared at my joint pain. So I pretty much didn't crochet or knit between January and February, probably. So I didn't feel like I had a lot to talk about. And then I found out that my surgery was going to be happening in April, and I was like, crap. And I was like, what am I going to do? Like, I need a video to like upload. And I'd actually taken some time off. I think I took all of February off, or all of March off, or something like that, of uploading videos, because I was having a flare up of my chronic fatigue. And then just as I was getting better, I found out I was going to be having surgery, and I was like, oh no, I was just getting back into the swing of doing tutorials, and I was about to do a podcast. So I kind of like doubled down, and I filmed so many tutorials in the lead up to my surgery. And at the time I had help with my video editing. I don't now. So I had loads of videos, like tutorials, ready to go. And then when I recovered from surgery, which was actually I recovered quite quickly, it felt really overwhelming to talk about everything that I'd crocheted in, say, the last 6 months or the last 8 months. So I kind of just kept filming more and more and more tutorials, and it worked because, you know, the channel, the only reason I'm sat here doing this Q&A video is because I hit 100,000 subscribers, and I asked you what you wanted to do to celebrate, and you said a Q&A. So we wouldn't be making this video if I hadn't have like doubled down on the tutorials and it hadn't grown the channel so much. Like, my channel was pretty stable at about 80 to 85,000 subscribers for most of 2025. And then since I started doing, like, I made sure I was doing a tutorial every week, I was promoting it. We're now up to nearly 150,000 subscribers as of today. So I feel like because I wasn't spending the energy doing podcasts, and I was able to focus that energy specifically on tutorials, that kind of made me want to do more tutorials and not want to give the energy for podcasts. Because for filming a podcast, you know, they're usually about an hour and a quarter long. I go through, they're a bit like this. I sit and I chat specifically about my projects and the yarns I'm using, and my thought process behind the whatever I'm designing or working on. So yeah, very chatty, and they take quite a lot of energy out of me because I have to prep them. So I have to make a list of what I'm going to talk about. I need to make sure they're all in the right room. I need to make sure my craft room's tidy, and it's usually not, it's usually a tip. And because it's such a small room, it's like a little box room, and I don't have enough storage for what I've got in this. There's always stuff everywhere. It's just like, so I need to tidy my craft room, I need to get all my projects out, I need to write down write down a rough plan, and then I need to get ready to film, like put some makeup on or whatever. And then I need to sit and film it. That usually, even though it's like an hour and a quarter long, sometimes I can be like filming for 2-3 hours, because I often need to take breaks in between, say, a project. I need to go and have a lie down for 10-15 minutes to kind of like manage my health problems. So yeah, it felt like, because it takes all that time and energy, because then we've got editing a video that's an hour long will probably take me about 8 hours. So basically doing a podcast wipes out any other content I can create that week. So it needs to be, I'm having a good week, I need to make sure that I'm budgeting energy. I don't have anything else planned that week, so I'm not going out with my partner for lunch, I'm not seeing family or friends. That's kind of my thing that I'm doing that week, is I'm doing a podcast. And it just felt like it was too much to do it every month, and the longer I left it, the longer the video would be and the longer it would take. So I have a plan. So let me know what you think of this plan, right? So what I'm thinking is that in December, I'll upload 2, maybe 3 videos. Everything I crocheted in 2025, everything I knitted in 2025, and every yarn I span in 2025 to kind of cover my 3 primary crafts. They'll probably be, you know, released at some point in this December, but I'm going to film them in November because my last podcast was in November. So I'll watch my last podcast and see where I was up to, and I will film it in November. So it's like 12 months of my crochet projects, 12 months of my knitting projects, whatever. So there'll be kind of like catch-up podcast episodes. And then what I'm thinking of doing next year is doing a podcast, not putting pressure on myself to do it every month. Do it when I feel like I have updates. So that might be a month after, it might be 2 or 3 months later. And try and do the minimum quarterly, but ideally every 2 months. That's kind of my thoughts. I don't know. So a lot of content creators have memberships where you pay, you know, a few pounds a month or whatever, and then you get access to like exclusive content. You might get my content early, or maybe I do a live stream or something like that, because live streams take it out of me as well. So I'm not really sure whether I want to do that or not, because I don't know if I can be consistent with that. But I think if I was to do a membership and I did kind of like almost like live streamed podcast where we talk about my projects and have like a bit of a live Q&A, I don't know if that's like an option people would be interested in. I don't know. I don't really know what I want to do with this sort of content. I feel like this idea that I've had for Crochet With Me, where I sit and I work on a project and answer your questions and have a bit of a chat, these are a lot easier for me to do because there's none of the prep. You know, I'm here with my hair's a little bit greasy. I've put a tiny bit of makeup on quickly just before I came down to film. And literally got my camera out and put my microphone on. That's literally all the prep I've done for this video. And obviously I've like put all your questions in my notes app on my phone. So this is a lot easier for me to do. So I think I might, so does this like, I know you say you missed my podcast, but like, does this kind of fill that gap? I don't know. What kind of like chatty content do you want from me? Because I don't want to just do tutorials. I've just done tutorials for most of this year and I miss this kind of like chatty video. Do you want podcasts? Do you want me to scrap this Crochet With Me idea and just do podcasts again? Let me know. And if you're not quite sure what a podcast is, because I realised I probably should have explained this when we started talking about podcasts, in the craft community, I think it's mostly the knitting community, people do these updates, sometimes weekly, whenever, and they basically go through their projects and the yarn that you're using and what they're doing. I don't really watch them anymore, so that kind of plays into it as well. Like, are people still watching them? I don't know. Anyways, I feel like that I miss your podcast is like taking me off on a massive tangent and a rant for like 5 minutes. I'm sorry about that. Let's have a look at the next question and try and get through these a bit quicker. Do you have a favourite thing to make? Yes. Granny squares. I mean, you can do so much with granny squares, and I'm not talking about like traditional granny squares. I'm talking about, you know, this is a solid granny square with colour changes to make the triangles. These are like using different stitches to make squares. I also really like making hexagons. I just think that like motifs, maybe it's motifs I really enjoy, is my favourite thing to make. I just like that you kind of assemble, it's like putting a puzzle together almost. Like you make all of these squares or whatever and then you join them all and suddenly it's a big project. Like when I was stitching this together yesterday, I was like, oh, this is my favourite part of a blanket process. It's literally my favourite part is when you're like part way through sewing and you can actually see what was the vision in your head, you know? So yeah, it's my favourite part. So yeah, granny squares / motifs. Next, what type of yarn do you use most? Probably merino yarn. I really like merino or merino blend wools, whether that's a hand-dyed sock yarn, a commercial merino yarn with a high twist. That's really good for tutorials. Yeah, so just generally merino wool, I guess. Next one. What is your favourite yarn brand and colour ever? I don't have one. I don't. People ask me this like every week. What's your favourite yarn brand? Can you recommend your favourite yarn brand? I don't have one. They always disappoint me. Like, am I being too picky? But like, I find that yarn, there's always something. There's always something that I don't like. Maybe it's the company isn't specific about the ethics behind the yarn, or maybe I love the feel of the yarn, but the colour range, there's like 5 colours. And like, as someone who loves colourful crochet projects, that's just not enough for me. Or maybe maybe it's like the price. It's like, oh, I really love this yarn, but there's no way I can make a blanket on it because it would cost me like £1,000. I don't know. Like, it's usually the colour range slash how the yarn works to feel of it. I really don't like acrylic yarns. I started with acrylic yarns. You know, I was pretty low income / a student for a lot of my crochet journey. So I could only use acrylic yarns, and then thankfully now I can splurge a bit more. So I've decided not to use 100% acrylic yarns, and I usually only use like either plant-based or animal fibre-based yarns now. So yeah, I'm sorry I can't answer my favourite yarn brand question. I want to have a favourite yarn brand that I'll come back to again and again and again. And there's always something that it's just, it doesn't work for me. Sometimes like blending a few different brands together will give me the colour palette that I like. I do that a lot with my merino wool yarns. So yeah, sorry about that. Colour, I really love crocheting with warm tones. So I really like pinks plus autumny colours, kind of like this kind of palette. Not so much browns. Browns are not particularly my favourite, but I really love like golden mustardy yellows, like purpley pinks, coppery oranges. They're like my favourite colours to crochet with. They're just so cosy. I don't know how else to describe it apart from they're cosy. And if you can't tell by like all the cushions behind me, we've kind of got like a autumnal coloured theme running like on our cushions on the sofa. So yeah, warm cosy colours are my favourites to crochet with. Okay, what type of cotton yarn did you use for your temperature blanket? I haven't made a temperature blanket. So I did a tutorial for a moss stitch chevron blanket that went a little bit viral on Instagram a few months ago. And I did a swatch of the stitch and said, oh, this would be really good for temperature blankets. And everyone thought I'd made this temperature blanket, and I hadn't. I'd just done a swatch for the tutorial. But yeah, the yarn that I used for that was scraps of Drops Paris. I don't know if I can work out what colours that I used. I know some of them have been discontinued. So yeah, Drops Paris was the yarn I used for that. It's not necessarily a yarn I would recommend for blankets though. It's quite a heavy cotton. So yeah, I'm not sure I would crochet a blanket with that yarn. The colours are beautiful, really beautiful, like colourful but still a little bit earthy, you know? So next question, your personal favourite hooks and why? I'm going to stop crocheting for this because I'm actually using my favourite hook right now. So this is my favourite crochet hook. It is a Clover Amour crochet hook, specifically the metal ones, the aluminium ones. So the ones that are 6mm and under sizes, they're my favourite crochet hooks. They're basically perfect. They're so slippy to crochet with. It doesn't cause me any joint pain. The only irk that I have is that the handles for the 4mm and under sizes are quite thin. I wish these handles were a bit thicker because I do get some joint issues. So yeah, Crochet Amour crochet hooks, highly recommend. Okay, next question is favourite books on crochet. I have a lot of crochet books. I wouldn't necessarily say any of them are my favourite. Do I have a favourite? Yes, I do. It's a Stitch dictionary from the 1980s. Okay, so I have literally a little library. Maybe I was planning on doing a bookshelf tour of all of my crochet books, and I never did it. I might add that back to I wonder if it's still on my list. I've just not made it. But yeah, so My favourite crochet book, that was your question, it wasn't about all of my crochet books. So my favourite crochet book is the Harmony Guide to Crochet Stitches, I think it's called. I'll pop in like a photo slash images of it. I really like it because it's really clear. It has charts for the stitches and it's just, I just really like it. It has some really interesting stitches in there. Yeah, I think stitch dictionaries in general are my favourite crochet books. The crochet books with like projects in are all well and good, but I always end up making up my own patterns. That's how I ended up being a designer, is because I just couldn't stop. I always, for a long time, I've always done my own patterns. I have followed a few crochet patterns in my time, but in general, I just make up my own stuff as I go. So yeah. Next question, favourite websites for patterns? Well, that's easy. I've been a Ravelry user since 2010, so Ravelry 100%. I know that there's some controversy over it and like, yeah, but if you compare it to something like Etsy, it's so much easier to search on Ravelry. I have a video all about how to search for patterns on Ravelry. I'll link down in the description as well if you're new to Ravelry, but it literally, the database on Ravelry has a million patterns for knitting and crochet that you can search. Some of them are free, some of them are paid, some of them are discontinued and aren't available anymore, but it's like this massive database that you can search for all different kinds of attributes like yarn weight or techniques used. It's just really good compared to something like Etsy where you have to use the search bar to type in like, I don't know, crochet scarf pattern, and they all pop up in whatever order Etsy wants to show you and promote the patterns, you know? And I do sell on Etsy, but I don't buy patterns on Etsy. And the reason I don't buy patterns on Etsy is the fees, because I sell on my own website, on Ravelry and on Etsy, and Etsy the fees they charge are like 10 times what I get charged on the other sites. So yeah, I don't buy patterns from other designers on Etsy unless that's the only place that they sell them. I usually go for their own website because they probably pay the least amount of fees there. So yeah. Next question, how much time a day do you crochet / how long do you crochet? It's hard to say. I can go weeks without crocheting, especially if I'm having a flare-up of my joint problems. I have a specific issue with this thumb joint. I have hypermobility, so I have hypermobile joints, and like if you can see my thumb, it kind of bends backwards a bit, and that can cause a lot of pressure. That flares up, and sometimes my finger here as well flares up. So sometimes I don't crochet for weeks. If I'm having a day where I'm having a crochet day, there is a good chance that with breaks I could crochet for like 6 hours probably. Sometimes I'll just like do half an hour in front of the telly on an evening. It depends really on what's going on that day. Yeah. Okay, last question. I think this is the last question I've got in this group of questions. Do you crochet seasonal or for whatever strikes you? Generally whatever strikes me. I really love using autumnal colours in autumn. That's one thing about, but it doesn't have to be like an autumn themed project. I don't like using like fluffy yarns or working on a blanket that's going to be across my lap in the depths of summer for obvious reasons, and fluffy yarns when your hands are a bit sweaty. So I do less crochet in the summer and do more in like the autumn, winter and spring. But no, I wouldn't necessarily say I crochet seasonal. And now I need to kind of think about, you know, because I am a crochet designer now and I do release patterns, I need to think about, I need enough time for me to make the thing, write the pattern, and the pattern to be tested before it can go out. So that's, you know, sometimes that's 6 months to a year of lead time before the pattern is released, because a lot of work goes in behind the scenes to a crochet pattern. And yeah, so like for example, this blanket, it's been like 11 months in my head designing, working out how it's all going to work, swatching, making the first sample of the blanket, writing the pattern, filming the tutorial, making the second sample of the blanket, swatching for other yarns to double check it works for other yarns as well. And then now we're having like a 10-week test for it as well, so that other people can make the blanket. So yeah, I think by the time the pattern comes out, it'll have been more than 12 months in development. And then I'm currently thinking about tutorials and patterns I want to come out in the summer, and we're currently in October. So I kind of have to think about it that way now. So I often do end up, say, crocheting a pattern that's going to release in the autumn, in the spring, or for example, I've just started on a summer pattern that I might crochet on in the next crochet with me video. But yeah, so yeah, I'm kind of forced to do it seasonally now, if that makes sense. So I think I'm going to wrap this video up here. If you've enjoyed this crochet with me video, let me know down in the comments, and in a couple of weeks I'll upload another one of these videos, and I think that video is probably going to be me telling the truth about my crochet business, income, YouTube journey, things like that. I think I might pick a different one to do in a few weeks time. So yeah, I hope you have enjoyed this video. Was I only filming for an hour? That felt like longer.